Now it's time to edit your paper. Because your paper represents you and your best work, you need it to be polished prior to submitting it. This means that there are several items that you're going to need to check on your paper. This slideshow will walk you through editing process for your paper that you will be submitting. I expect you to take this one slide at a time and complete the editing for each step. Hit pause after each new edit. There should be minimal errors in the areas covered in this presentation. Follow the directions as you watch this. The first thing, if you have not installed text-to-speech on your Chrome browser, go ahead and do that. You're going to highlight 2 or 3 sentences at a time and listen to them as the computer reads them to you. Think to yourself as you listen, is this a complete thought? Does this make sense? Do I need to add an S to anything or take one away? Do all the words say exactly what I wanted them to? Make the changes as you listen to each section, making sure your whole paper has good, clean, coherent, complete sentences. Now you need to make sure you have all of the parts. This was an ACE response, so you have the ACE, the argument, your citation, your explanation, and here's the order it should be in. You should have a topic sentence. This is part of your A. This is a broad statement that tells me what each paragraph is going to be about. Along with your A, maybe you have your extension sentences and the context for your quote. These are sentences that provide more information about your topic and lead us towards the quote. It could include the context for the quote. So you're telling me what's kind of happening. Next, we have the C, your citation. So you need to have a lead in to your quote. No dropped quotes. Make sure you've led into the quote that you are providing. Who said it? How did they say it? Santiago whispered. Jane screamed. Julia whimpered. Who said it and how? That's the lead in. And then next, your quote. Do you have your quote in quotation marks? Did you cite it in MLA format afterwards? Now we're on to the E, which is your explanation and analysis. Did you answer the questions why and how does this prove your argument? You're not just summarizing what the quote said, you're analyzing the quote and giving us deeper meaning to that quote. Finally, do you have a conclusion sentence? Did you wrap it all up? If you have more than one paragraph, does your conclusion sentence transition us to the next? Here's the MLA format in case you've forgotten. So make sure your quote is cited properly. I have a lead in, Santiago whispered, comma, then quotation marks around the quote. They have killed me, Wayne. End quotation marks, parentheses, Marquez, that's the author, a space with a page number, end the parentheses, and the period goes on the outside. If your quote ends with a question mark or an exclamation point, you will put that on the inside. Capitalize, capitalize, capitalize. Very important. Capitalize the beginning of each of your sentences. Go in and check those. Capitalize proper nouns. This includes the names of people and places. Capitalize the word I if it is included in your paper. Capitalize the title of stories. Go in and check your capitalization. If you have a short story in your paper and you've written about it, then you should have quotation marks around the title of the short story. If you have a novel in your writing, you should have written the title of the novel in italics. Punctuation. Go back and look at your paper. You should have ending punctuation for every single sentence. You should have commas before a quote. You should have quotation marks around your quotes. You should have commas in your compound and complex sentences where necessary. You should have apostrophes to show possession. Again, you're checking your quotes, making sure you have the lead in, the quotation, the commas. Here's some more examples on this. The king exclaimed, comma, who is that? Madame whispered, comma, it's gone. Bessie cried, comma, it's not fair. Each quote has a lead in and a comma directly after it, before and after the quote itself. The end punctuation goes on the inside of the quote unless you're citing it in MLA format, in which case it goes at the end, as we just discussed. Spelling. Use a spell check on your computer. Use Grammarly to check your work. Any word that is underlined, you need to check it for incorrect spelling and make those corrections. Finally, you need to make sure that you have written academically. This is going to take you the longest time. Personal pronouns, don't use them. This includes I, me, my, we, you, and us. If you have any of those words in your paper, you need to remove them now. Instead, you say the reader, people, society, community, the town. You do not use personal pronouns in academic writing. You also do not use contractions. You have to spell them out. So instead of can't, you write cannot. Instead of don't, you write do not. There is they are. Go through and make sure you do not have any contractions. Dead words. These words are not specific and they leave your paper sounding wordy and elementary. We want you to take these words out of your paper. Many times, words can just be removed. Sometimes you have to replace them with something more specific. For example, if you have the word things in your paper or it, you should replace things or it with whatever those things or it actually is. Sometimes you can just take the word that out. Sometimes you need to change the sentence and rewrite it so that the word that is not necessary. I also don't want you to use the words a lot, happy, sad, and do not write this quote. You've led into the quote, put quotation marks around it so we know that it is a quote. Please do not say this quote in your paper anywhere. Finally, citing your work. This is really important. Use Purdue OWL if you don't know how to cite something. If you use someone else's words, thoughts, or ideas without giving them credit, it is plagiarism. So you need to have a work cited if you are citing something from outside of your own work. Final checklist. Listen to it one more time now that you've made all those changes. Double check punctuation as you're listening. Capitalization. Replace your contractions. Replace your dead words. Replace your personal pronouns. Check your spelling. Check all quotes, all citations, MLA format. Listen again. Don't forget to submit your final piece of writing.